Maribor, Malmo, AEK Athens, Cluj, Ferencvaros, Midtjylland, and now we can add Kairat to the list. 7 unacceptable Champions League qualifying losses for Celtic, underprepared, under-equipped, and ultimately undone. It's going to be a fun video, I can tell, and we've got Scott and Paul on with me today. And a big thanks to Practical CBT for sponsoring today's show. If you're a guy looking to get your head in a better place, just like you train on the pitch, they've got 10-minute online workouts and coaching sessions that can make a real difference. Celtic AM listeners get up to 33% off as well. So get involved there. Links are in the description, and a bit of much needed positivity. Right, I'd say good morning, guys, but it's not a good morning. Celtic are out of the UEFA Champions League after, I think, around 230 scoreless minutes against Kairat. We even struggled to score from the penalty spot, missing 3 of our 5 kicks in the shootout. Paul, where to begin? Well, probably to begin with it being incredibly fresh for you, because you're watching it in a bit of a delay. So I guess we've kind of got the stages of the grieving process happening in real time here. Me and Scott have moved on. I don't know to what stage, Scott, but what are you at the moment, Paul, 10, 20 minutes on from full time?
Speechless, probably, is where I'm at, which doesn't help when you're doing a podcast. But I don't think I'm even angry. It was just such an insipid performance and just a poor game of football. So yeah, it very much feels it's one that got away. There's no way we should be losing a team like that. They are not a good team. That's where I'm at.
I was actually thinking in the history of like 2-legged ties. Do you think there's been a worse tie than that? I would like to see a worse tie than that, or maybe I wouldn't like to see it. But the 2 matches, Scott, imagine being a neutral watching those. It was like 2 really, really poor teams, I thought.
I reckon if you're neutral, you turned off after 20 minutes and said, "I've got better things to do." That was, as I don't know, the adjective insipid performance as you could ask for when everything's on the line. You know what's at stake. You know, maybe you can be forgiven for a really poor first half last week because you're trying to figure it all out. But that was dire. That whole game today was dire. There was a lack of urgency, a lack of passion. It was devoid of want. They didn't want it. And a team that doesn't have the fortune to play in the big lights within the big games like Celtic does, who doesn't have the resources that Celtic does, decided to get organised, work their guts out, and get a result that they needed. Kairat got that, and Celtic have no excuses.
Talk us through the team then, Paul, because it was probably a lineup a lot of us would have predicted, but I mean, just looking at those players, you would struggle to find like a pass mark at all from the game.
No, I think you're right. I think the front three is problematic, and I think that's where everyone's identified that we're really, really short at the moment. But to be fair to the front three, they didn't see a great amount of the ball. The ball got so clogged up in midfield. So I think Yang, 1 or 2 nice touches, but generally was pretty poor in the night. Jamesy Forrest, I can't remember him doing it other than that header that he had in the first half. Can't remember him doing much. And Maeda, you put a pacey player up top and then don't play the ball in behind for him.
Yeah, I just felt it was like a really nervy performance. I was expecting, given what we'd been hearing from the manager and Callum McGregor and Kasper Schmeichel, I was expecting them to kind of put last week behind them and really, be up for it and not making any excuses. But I don't know if you guys agree. It just felt like there was no control of the game at any point. Like I know we had possession, and I think I had a brief look at the stats, and I think we completed like far more passes than Kairat, which you would expect, but like, would you actually say we really controlled that game? It felt like every kind of pass was a struggle, and you mentioned Yang, you mentioned Maeda, Paul. I just thought those two in particular really struggled to keep the ball. Anytime the ball went into their feet, they just couldn't hold on to it. It was like kind of basic skill, and you know, as you say, James Forrest was quiet, and Benji Negrin was pretty poor, I thought, and was getting caught in possession. And there's one in particular where he had a good bit of space and just get caught by a guy behind him, like kind of unforgivable stuff. Hitati was pretty poor. Callum McGregor, I thought, was struggled. I realise I'm going through the whole team here, but that is kind of the point. Kieran Tierney, God, that was awful from Kieran Tierney. Carter Vickers was slack. Yeah, it was just a struggle. What do you put that down to, Scott? Because like these guys in general, most of them have proven to be good players, and we can talk about recruitment, and obviously we well in the fact that like, we needed more quality for this tie, and that is unforgivable. But those players should be doing a lot more, so it's got to be quite concerning that that's all they could muster on like a seismic night for the club.
It makes you wonder what's happening behind closed doors at player level, player and management level. Like, is all this talk finally got to them, and they're, well, the manager's not sticking around? You know, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. Like, CCV probably played as poor a game as I've seen him play.
Yeah. Twice he let the ball just run over his foot after doing it in the first leg last week. How many times have you seen CCV do that in his Celtic career? And he's done it 3 times in the last week.
And I just felt like every problem we had forward was because of how slow we allowed it out the back. They were letting us get up to the centre circle, but it was so slow. And then you'd have McGregor come back, take a touch, pass it back. And that was the pattern of play all night. That's where our 600 passes came from, was from our centre backs and Callum McGregor passing amongst themselves. And then occasionally, if they saw half a chance, they'd try and, you know, get the ball up the field or over to Tierney or Ralston and try and work it up the wing, because they definitely weren't trying to go through the middle in that first half. And they're under pressure straight away. Like, there's just no urgency. They're like, I expected, all right, 5 minutes, get used to it, get used to the pitch. What affected the temperature or the altitude? We still looked fresher than they did after 90 minutes. And that's because we didn't do any work. The effort wasn't there. And so, you know, I mean, it is the most frustrated I think I've been. Like, we've seen some pretty ordinary performances in the last 6 months from Celtic, and this has to be up there with the worst. Because it's not even that Kairat was sitting back like Aberdeen did in the cup final. They just sort of controlled that sort of centre third and said, play around us, play over us, and invited us to do that. And we were like, no, pass it. I'll give it to this guy. He can have the opportunity to pass it. Or maybe we'll go over here. There was just no direction. And there was one shot I saw of Rodgers, and you could hear him telling them to go forward. And if that message is not falling on the players in such an important match, then I don't know where that leaves us going forward, because that was just poor. And so, yeah, when the ball got to Yang's first 15 minutes was terrible. He was the turnover king there. But the ball hardly went up the right-hand side as well. It hardly went to Ralston up to Forrest, or through Negrin up to Forrest, or through the middle to try and get to Moata. That never happened in the first half. And the only real time that we sort of looked any good was the last 15 minutes when we made some substitutions of, I'll point them out, it was Colby Donovan and, Donovan came on later, but Dane Murray. It's the only guy in the back four who looked to pass the ball forward with any real conviction at all. And that's a tiring Kairat side. And then things started to flow. So, yeah, just horrid. Completely horrid. I don't know where we go from here.
I think, I was going to say, I think there was real fear in the side tonight. And so Kairat really effectively clogged up the middle of the pitch. So they didn't press us. They didn't press the back four. We had time with the back four, but as soon as we looked to get the ball forward, there was no time at all and no space. And so I think the players start to fear playing the ball forward because we're just going to lose it because we turned it over time and time and time again. And so that's where movement's so important. When they're clogging those areas up, we need to look to get in between lines. We need to be perpetual motion in the middle and giving options and pointing out runs and doing things like that. And Peter Grant and Celtic TV, who he loves a chat, but his point was draw them out, draw their defence out, and then look to get the ball over the top. And I know it's not the build up sort of play that we look at, but you need to be pragmatic in ties like this. You've got to use what you've got up front, which particularly in Maeda and in Yang to some extent is pace. We've got to look to get in behind them. So because they were clogging the play up so much in the middle, we had to look to start bypassing that, and we just didn't. We were ponderous, we were slow. We just looked like we don't know what to do against a team that sits this way against us and takes that space away from us and kind of sucks the life out of the game, and it sucked the life out of us.
Has that not been a bit of a theme so far in the competitive stuff this season? I know we've won the majority of games, and Brendan Rodgers is, very keen to point out we've won our 4 domestic games so far, but St Mirren was a bit like that, lacking creativity, not creating chances. Aberdeen, kind of talked it up at the time, and it was a good win, and we shouldn't take away from that, but it wasn't a great performance. Falkirk, I thought, was probably the best performance, but then first half against Livingston again at the weekend, it was kind of more of the same. So, that's kind of been the constant theme, that we look nowhere near as threatening going forward. And obviously we've lost Nicholas Kuhn, we've lost Kyogo going back a little bit, and they've not been replaced. That's got to be a factor. But like that midfield hasn't been functioning for a long time, and Real Hatate doesn't look the same player. Callum McGregor, doesn't look the same player as he was a year ago. Benjamin Nygren, as I say, I thought was pretty poor. So creativity is just a real issue. As I say, 230 odd minutes in that tie, and not a single goal scored against Kairat. I don't think they had a chance in the entire tie, did they? They had that shot in the first leg over the bar. They created very little.
I think the best opportunity they had of scoring a goal was off of Callum McGregor's boot in the second half, forcing Schmeichel to punch it away.
That was nearly the cue for me to turn the game off and go back to bed, because that was zero. By the way, just a side point, I was kind of surprised that, and I'm not saying this should have happened because obviously it wasn't in the rules. I was surprised Casper didn't get like a yellow or even a red for that, because he was kind of prevented a goal scoring opportunity. But I was kind of worried when that happened, but it's clearly not in the rules.
I think there was one yellow card in the game though, wasn't there?
Yeah.
The ref refused, and to be fair, it wasn't a dirty game at all, which again probably speaks to how much Celtic sort of backed off it and just weren't at it, because there was nobody willing to go in and put in a challenge and G the boys up and do anything like that. It was an easy game to referee for the ref.
I must admit that I don't know if you guys caught, or you would have, but the kind of various huddles that Kairat had. So they had one after the 90, they had one at half time of extra time, and they had one before penalty kicks. And every time you heard them, players G'ing themselves up, it felt like it was like a massive, massive occasion for them. And it was, obviously, it should have been a massive occasion for us as well. And there was no real fight there. Again, that midfield, I think I kept just seeing guys rising over Callum McGregor. How many headers did he lose? And I know that's not necessarily his game, but it kind of is a lot of the time. Callum McGregor setting the tone, getting to things first, winning challenges from time to time. And it just felt like he was kind of run over the top at times, which the Kairat midfield, functioned quite well. Having said all that, guys, we did have, I think, 3 really good chances. And if one of them goes away, we go through, and needless to say, we're all feeling, rightly or wrongly, we're feeling pretty differently about everything. Dyson's chance, Paul. We love Dyson, but how many times is he going to miss 1-on-1s? It was a shocker.
It was poor. It was, you've got to at least make the keeper work, and the keeper come out, but there was space around him. I was surprised he cut onto his left, given the pace that he's got. And I know the defender's coming down the right, but we talked before about get across the front of him, win yourself a foul or a penalty or wherever you are. But he's cut onto his left. He's weaker foot, and the ball, to be fair, took a bobble, but he's tried to hammer it past him rather than just all it takes is a dink past the keeper there. And again, it's easy sitting here. But yeah, but that was poor. He's not looked the same this season. He's looked off it this season. As I think a lot of them have. I think they're just, and I know we'll probably come on to this, but there's a lack of freshness. There's a flatness about the team, and I don't think it's necessarily that we're looking for new players to come in, new wingers, new striker to come in to lift the levels and to be people that we depend on all the time. But as managers always talk about, it brings a freshness, and it brings a bit of competition, and it brings a bit of a spark, and we're just really missing that spark just now. And yeah, Dyson typified that tonight, and that was he's still in a lot. He's got to do better there. He's got to do a lot better.
There was because there was the comments from Brendan Rodgers at the end of last season talking about, you need to keep the squad fresh and have players coming in and out. Either that or the manager goes, and it's looking like it will probably be the latter at the end of the season, and that might be how we get our freshness, Scott. But like it does, I was looking at the squad and players we've depended on for a while. For the first time, probably, I'm really questioning, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Dyson Maida, Rio Hatate. Have we potentially held on to these guys just a little bit too long? Are we maybe repeating the mistakes we made a number of years ago going into the 10 in a row season? I realise it's easy to get a bit caught up after the game, but it was a game of real consequence, and it does have you asking those kind of questions.
Yeah, maybe we are at that stage now. I can't see them leaving in this window because there's only a couple of days left. But could there be movement in January? Possibly. It depends how things play out. You'd be looking for a response this weekend, but you can't count on it. Then we're into an international break. So if things unravel between now and Christmas, it might not be Brendan's decision. He might be gone by the end of the year, before the end of the year, if it unravels. I don't think it'll unravel. I think the guys there are solid enough, but they've got enough in the tank, I think, to get us through this season. But we're looking at Europa League football now. I have no confidence that will do anything really of note there. Maybe we make it past the league stage, but I wouldn't count on it. Not with this squad. Even with the guys coming in, they need time to bed in. We'll see what they've got. They could be here for a giggle for all we know. We picked them up on the cheap, just the way the board likes it. So we'll see if they've got the ticket to put the work in and bring the side up with them. A bit of freshness in the side can lift some of the guys that may be feeling a bit stale because too much has fallen on their shoulders. But yeah, I think we're going to have to be prepared to let a few of them go, if not in January, definitely at the end of this year.
Yeah, and move on from that. A couple other chances missed in extra time that really frustrated me as well, Paul. You had Rio Hatate's one that was kind of blocked, I think, and then a Luke McCowan chance. Oh, put your foot through it, Luke. Like just kind of tippy-tappy effort that the keeper gets down to. And those two, along with Dyson's chance, they were three clear-cut chances. You've got to stick one of them away.
You do, and I'll add Nygren to that as well. Nygren had a chance at the near post where he put the near post, which was made by Donovan, who I think, albeit it was at 10-15 minutes he was on the pitch, he looked like the sharpest player or the most lively player in a Celtic jersey tonight. I just think these chances come, but you're so starved of chances and starved of the ball that the players snatch at them, or we were just poor. We made chances. They didn't make chances. So we're playing against a team who didn't make chances, who from probably the second half of normal time were looking to see it out to penalties. They're not looking to attack us. They're not looking to. It's almost in some senses like you hear managers domestically that we come up against. Playing Livingston or Dundee or whoever you play, and they say, we're looking to hang in there for 70 minutes, 75 minutes, and then maybe try last 10, 15 minutes, open up a little bit. And that's kind of how it felt with Kairat tonight, that they weren't on the front foot, they weren't attacking us, they weren't looking, they didn't really seem to have any kind of attacking threat. Even set pieces where you anticipate a big team like them are going to be good, they they had nothing really, but we had nothing either. Our delivery, our set piece delivery tonight was appalling. It was the worst I've seen it in a long
it actually
time.
got to a kind of laughable point with both teams, because I think about 80% of the set pieces hit the first man. Penalty kicks, how were you feeling? I personally just, it felt like they were favourites going into it, just because it felt like they'd already won almost by getting it to penalties. I think it was so clear they were playing for penalties. I'm honestly not bitter about it, because like Kairat, you know, it's an amazing achievement for them and they deserve credit for coming through 4 rounds. And I genuinely do mean that. I don't really feel any anger towards them. The anger's towards Celtic. They're going to struggle in the Champions League. Like, they're going to struggle big time, because they're not a particularly great team. But I don't know what that says about us. But penalties, guys, I kind of, right from the first penalty being missed, I just thought that was it.
I thought Adam Eden looked as if he'd rather be getting a colonoscopy than walking up to take a penalty there. Like, he just had no confidence in his face at all. He looked awful walking up to take it. And I don't know, you think back to the games where we've scored 5 penalties out of 5, where they've buried some beautiful penalties, where they've played a much harder game. None of them looked confident walking up to take penalties tonight, and I think you just had no confidence that they were going to stick them away.
Dyson's penalty, Scott.
Oh, that was... It falls on him, but it started at the beginning. Why is Adam Eder taking the first one? Arne Engels has to take the first one. He's your most confident
took his
and
well,
competent
didn't
penalty taker.
Yeah.
Right? Put the pressure on them. For the first time in the tie, that was an opportunity for us to get on the front foot. And we declined. And we put up a guy who's so out of touch. I'm not even sure if he actually wants to be there anymore, to be honest. Because he's a passenger on that team. And it was the perfect height for a keeper to get across. It was a shocking one. And then Luke McCowan copies it with the exact same kick, same result.
And Dyson's was the worst of the lot. Like, Dyson just looked as if he couldn't really be bothered. And it's like, I'll just go for this. And if I miss, then it's over anyway.
He always looks like that. And he's got the ability to like scuff his foot before he strikes the ball and still get it across or whatever. He's not the best penalty taker, right?
No.
But the damage was already done. We were chasing that shootout like we chased the entire 2 legs. That summed everything up, I think. I don't know whose decision it was to have Eder go first, but it was the wrong one. So whether it sits with the player who said, yeah, I can do this, trust me, or if it was the management team saying, no, Adam goes first, someone cocked it up and it had us on the back foot again.
Yes. Well, we all know Celtic let us down last night, but you don't need to let dodgy internet let you down as well. With NordVPN, you can keep your connection safe, unblock content worldwide, and even catch games from anywhere. And by signing up through nordvpn.com/CelticAM, you'll be supporting the channel while also getting a cracking deal for yourself. So while Celtic couldn't defend in Almaty, at least you can defend your... Who writes this? At least you can defend your data with NordVPN. Guys, I can't do this anymore. This is the end. Please just get NordVPN, everyone, and I won't have to do this anymore. Dear, oh dear. At least we can have a laugh about it. Right, 6 months ago, Paul, we drew with Bayern Munich. I don't know if you were on the video. You're on one of the legs, I think.
Yeah.
And we all just felt we're gutted, but we just felt amazing seeing Celtic going kind of relatively toe-to-toe, I would say, with a top team and nearly taking it to extra time, nearly winning that night. Honestly, 6 months later to be where we are, I'd say you wouldn't believe it, but you probably would believe it with Celtic. It's just been some fall.
It has, yeah, and it's... I don't like getting involved in conversation about the board and dragging their feet and all that kind of stuff. I really, I don't like kind of jumping down into that negativity. But the reality is, it looks as if we're about to sign a player that we've been chasing for 2 or 3 months, however long it is, or years, or however long we've been chasing him. And it seems from the outside like there was no reason we shouldn't have had him in beforehand. No reason he shouldn't have been in 6-8 weeks ago. Now, obviously, I don't know what goes on behind the scenes, and there might well be things there, but it just seems like we took this tie way, way too lightly. Like we've started the season slowly, like you say, Hamish. It's a far cry from the team that held Bayern Munich and were seconds away from beating them across in Munich. And just as much as the kind of style of player, quality of play, anything, it's just that flatness. There was an energy about the team last year, and I think to be fair, the pre-season tour that we had in the States last year, the way we went out and schooled Premier League teams, albeit teams that were not as far down the pre-season as we were, but guys like Nicholas Kuhn on fire, just the excitement machines on the pitch that were really, really good to watch, really brought a spark and an energy to the start last season. He's gone. Kyogo's not there. Maeda's out of touch. It just looks like that level of excitement's not there. That spark's not there just now, and it's just so flat. And I have to say, I know it wasn't on the video for the Livy game, but when I saw that there were 8 changes, it actually made me quite excited to watch the game. Because
Yeah, I agree.
there's different players coming in. Maybe there's going to be something different about this. And I actually thought the team at the weekend played better than the team tonight. They were a bit sharper. They looked better. They looked more hungry than the team
And
tonight.
against Falkirk in the cup,
Yeah.
they were good that night as well.
Yeah. So whether that's what it's got to be, whether Dane Murray comes in and CCV sits out for a bit, we've got to do something to try and sort of reignite things and bring a bit of a spark, because it's getting a bit turgid.
Well, Anthony Ralston looked like he was, I don't know if you caught this, I think he was given painkillers at some point. He was certainly given something by someone in the medical team. If he's struggling, I know it might sound ridiculous, but put Colby Donovan in from the start on Sunday, because he looked better than Ralston. And I was talking to John earlier for the Celtic Way Weekly that'll be out later, and John made a good point. He said, like, if you're kind of looking for a backup to Alistair Johnson when Johnson's back, would you rather Ralston, or who you kind of know about, or would you rather a young guy like Colby Donovan who looks like he's got something, and go and give him that opportunity? Dane Murray as well. Dane Murray, you know, at the moment looks like the best centre back. I'm aware you don't want to go too far, and I mean the two of them came on for half an hour or whatever in total, but changes have to be made here. Balak Wisha, if he's fit, has to start on Sunday for me. You need to inject something into this at the moment, because if you send that same squad out, or that same team out on Sunday, I don't care how bad Rangers are, we're not winning that game, because we are not in a good place at the moment. But Scott, off the field stuff as well, it's just, I guess, just crazy to me how we've gone from this time last year and we all felt so amazing about everything, and we had a team to really be proud of, and it's Paul nails it, exciting players everywhere, to go to this, and Brendan Rodgers kind of putting a brave face in things, not really saying what he thinks, and kind of contradicting himself at times as well. And on top of that, Scott, you've got, you know, a fan base that are now looking at how they can demonstrate their unhappiness with the board.
Yeah, I don't envy being Brendan Rodgers, because he's the only person that gets put up the talk. Everyone's sort of gone through this. We're coming up to an international break. That's the time where there's some clear air, where we should be hearing from some people at the club in senior positions. We won't, but that's a really good time to address a few things. It'd also be a good time for maybe, I mean, they had the whole off season, but maybe start talking to your fan groups. Maybe try that, but no one will. You know, there's still some damage from last year that still hasn't been addressed by the club with the support. So again, that's just add that to the pile of grievances, right? I don't know where they plan on going here. I mean, I know that the board will be happy because they'll get to collect their dividend checks as they always do. That's all that clearly matters to them. I've been trying to think of how do the fan base, because you can't topple the board, that's not available. So I think all that's really to do is to try and get to the other shareholders, the people who go to the shareholders meeting, and really press the case that this isn't good enough, that your dividend will be greater if we're playing a higher level of football, because that seems to be all they care about. And if the investment's there and the results are there, they get their money, we get an ambitious football club. I think that's the only way we can do it. I wouldn't recommend burning Celtic Park down, because that place is beautiful, but Even that needs some work, right?
Glad you clarified that, just in case anyone was getting an idea. Yeah.
It's metaphorical, right? Like, just that's the only way I can see that there's going to be a way to affect change here, because these guys will sit on their piles of money and they'll be happy with it, while us suckers have to keep forking out. I've heard some people say maybe just like don't renew your season book, but the problem there is there's a wait list. And if an opportunity comes up for someone who's been on a wait list 5, 10, 15 years or more, you can't deny them the opportunity to go and sit at Celtic Park and watch Celtic play. They've earned that right by being on a wait list for so damn long. That's not fair on them either. So it's got to be a way to get to the shareholders who can put the board's feet to the fire when the time comes, and try and make them squirm. And I don't know, they can either leave or they can sell their shares, or I don't know. I don't know what that looks like, but I think that's the only way forward.
Do you know what? I think the problem is we're all guessing what's going on because it's a vacuum. It's a vacuum of information. There's no information coming through. We see the club's accounts coming out, and it looks like we've got a stack of money sitting in the bank. We make money from player trading. We make money from the Champions League last year, and so we're all assuming that we've got this massive pile of money that they're taking out in dividends and what's happening. And I think without transparency, without that kind of level of information flow, everybody just starts guessing, and then we get more and more negative because nothing's happening, because we see poor results in the pitch despite money coming in, and it just drags everything down and kind of adds to that flatness. And it doesn't take much to come out and have the odd conversation and explain why certain things are happening. When you don't hear those explanations, it leads you to think that there's something, some malfeasance going on, or something negative going on. It might not be the case, but when we don't hear anything about it, we just don't know.
The thing is, though, like we're looking for transparency. We're not going to get that. We're not going to hear from Michael Nicholson, because you just don't hear from Michael Nicholson. We're not going to hear. Well, not that it massively matters, but you're not going to see the Celtic social media accounts posting anything for the next few days, because that's what they do after bad defeats. They post the full-time graphic, they post Brendan Rodgers' interview, and then they just leave it for a couple of days. And that kind of sums up the club's approach to everything. And maybe I'm not an expert on social media. Maybe that is the kind of PR kind of guide to how you deal with these kind of things, but it doesn't appear to be the right one as far as I'm concerned. And they'll just roll on a few days. They'll probably build up the Europa League draw a bit. They'll build up to Ibrox, and they'll hope that we can get a win there. If we don't get a win there on Sunday, guys, if we lose at Ibrox on Sunday, God, things are going to ratchet up another level. It's going to be horrendous. But it's just such a concern that, you know, all of these factors at the club just are in such an unhealthy state so soon after we all felt so good. That's the thing that's got me. It's how quickly things have just fallen off a cliff. And for me, we can talk about Brendan Rodgers, and Brendan Rodgers does deserve the blame over the tie. I think there was certain decisions he made, starting lineup, subs maybe too late. Obviously getting the team motivated, he didn't do a particularly good job of that. But I do think for me, most of it goes back to the board. And it's the most simple thing to say, guys, but I cannot get my head round. You know when this tie is coming. We've known the date since February, or before then, to be honest. Why you don't just prepare for this tie? Get your signings done. It's rubbing salt into the wounds that we're now making signings after the tie. Like, what the hell is going on? Get the signings made. And the thing is, if you sign Balak Wisher or a striker or both, they probably make the difference in that tie, and we're in the Champions League. Like, I just can't get my head around why you wouldn't do that. But I guess those at the board know so much better than the rest of us. Europa League ticket sales are going to be interesting, guys, as well. Sorry, in you come.
Well, I was just going to say there, I think in terms of player recruitment as well, we're in a situation now where we're recruiting players that have to be willing to play in the Europa League rather than having that Champions League draw, because I think it's well documented that coming to play in Scotland, the attraction often for players to play with Celtic is that they get to play in the Champions League, or they get to play the Celtic Rangers games. And I think before this qualifying tie, players that you're recruiting who want to play in the Champions League, you can say to them, well, that's down to you. We're bringing you in to make the difference to us to get to the Champions League. What do we say now? Sorry, it's Europa League this year, maybe next year. So I think in many ways it just doesn't make sense to leave it this late. And I think as well, when we didn't replace Kyogo effectively, we've not replaced Nicholas Kuhn. We have to have contingency in place. We have to recognise that with the player trading model that we've got, and we've done it really well in the past. We're going to be getting rid of these players. These are the players we're going to bring in. Look at when we get rid of Juranovic and brought in Alistair Johnson. He was lined up. He was ready to go. We bring him in, and we've done that multiple times. Matt O'Reilly's another one that we bring in because our scouting network has identified these players. That seems to have broken down over the last 6 to 12 months. That we haven't lined up and are ready to pull the trigger on replacements for players that we've let go, and we've really suffered for it tonight, and who knows going forward.
Europa League, everyone, we're into that. Just a wee bit of housekeeping. The draw for that is on Friday. I'll do a proper deep dive once I've calmed down a bit and are feeling a bit more positive, maybe on Thursday, probably maybe even Friday morning. Europa League's looking a bit weaker, I must say. Not just because we're in it, but some of the other teams as well. Like, I don't know, there's not that many big clubs. I don't know if it was like this last season. I wasn't really paying attention, but in the moment, the kind of pot one teams, Roma, Porto, Feyenoord, Lille, Dinamo Zagreb, Real Betis, Salzburg and Aston Villa. I think Rangers will be a pot one team as well. They've not been confirmed. Pot two, which we'll be in, you're talking like Fenerbahce, Braga, Cervena Zvezda, Lyon, Nottingham Forest are in there as well. Stuttgart, great city, they're in there. Go Ahead Eagles are in there. The script is writing itself with that one. Scott, it's hard to be buzzing about the Europa League at this stage, but is there any part of you thinking, I've just remembered you've kind of answered this earlier, but is there any part of you thinking, maybe we get a few players in, we get things going again and we could have a wee run in this competition?
Yeah.
Okay, your face is doing it all. That's fine.
I think from a fan perspective, maybe you want to have another crack at Aston Villa, but this time at Celtic Park. I don't know if that's a possibility, but there's teams there that I think last year's Celtic, if you put last year's Celtic into this Europa League competition, we're definitely going on a run, and there's no one there to really stand in our way too much. Like, there will be a couple of tricky ties, but largely I could see us definitely making the last 16, last 8 kind of scenario there with the resources we got and the way last year's team was playing. This year's team would be lucky to advance beyond the league, I think, with the inconsistency in play. I mean, you look at our league form and that looks fine, and we had that win against Falkirk, but they're all teams in the bottom half of the Scottish League at the moment. That's not wins against strong opposition. I mean, St Mirren's probably the outlier there. I think they are a better team than their ladder position. But by and large, Rangers are our biggest test, and they're a shambles at the moment. But we're going to make them look like superstars this weekend. I can guarantee it. Because I think even if Ballot Wisher and Sachi are coming in, I don't think they're playing. They might come on as a sub, depending on the way the game comes out. And because he likes his guys. Brendan likes his guys. And I could see him maybe bringing in Dane Murray for Scales, because you've got to bring a fresher Scales on for Tierney when Tierney comes off after 60 minutes. I could see something like that happening. But I don't see who is going to move out of the midfield unless he puts Negrin up, puts Engels in, and you got McGregor and Hatate. Hatate likes this fixture, so we'll see if he actually responds to the way he played today. But I can see him sticking Eder up front because it's a big game. He stick with the guys he knows. In terms of Europa, I'm not hanging. I'll still get up and watch it, of course, but I'm not enthused about it. But it's also raw. Once we get into these fixtures and we know who we're playing, then we can sort of get up for the midweek games again.
So Scott's not got May the 20th in his diary marked out, Paul. The Besiktas Stadium in Istanbul, where the final will be played. Better get that sorted. Give us your final comments, Paul, then we'll head off.
Yeah, I won't be booking my flights for that one at this stage, given what we were watching. Do you know my final comments would be? I'm just thinking about it as Scott's talking there. I remember Brendan Rodgers' third season, the last time he was with us, and the football was poor. We were still in a decent position when he left, commanding position, looking at winning the league. But the football was nowhere near what it had been in those first couple of years, and I just sense the same again. And I wonder if that's a factor that he's got his eyes elsewhere, or the board are thinking actually he's going to be leaving, so we're not going to invest the same way. I don't know, but in some ways it seems like history's repeating itself. That we haven't at the start of the season playing good football, and that happened before as well. Having said that, nobody's got a divine right to win any game of football. Kairat have, to be honest, played the game to perfection over these last two legs and just clogged the midfield up and prevented us from playing football, and they walk away into the Champions League. Talking about the Europa League being a weaker competition this year, well, Kairat are in the Champions League, having beat two group teams from last year's competition. So good luck to them. Well done in getting in. And I think we weren't prepared well enough. We didn't play well enough, and we got what we deserved.
And that's a good way to finish. That might actually be the quote that I use in the title, "We got what we deserve." So thanks for that, Paul. Appreciate it. Right, off you go, guys. We'll catch up with you both soon. I think, Scott, I'm watching the game with you on Sunday night, which will be a right laugh, I'm sure. But again.
Turf. Yeah, back to the turf. Let's hope for a better result.
Plenty of alcohol needed for that one, I think. Not just because of you either. I'm talking about watching Celtic. Okay, everyone, we've had a wee laugh, but obviously not a great day. Let us know what you made of things, and we'll do a bit of a roundup tomorrow. Speak to you then.